The Book of Psalms, Psalm 66. For the chief musician, a song, a song, a song, a psalm. Make a joyful shout to God, all the earth. Sing to the glory of his name. Offer glory and praise. Tell God how awesome are your deeds. Through the greatness of your power, your enemies submit themselves to you. All the earth will worship you and will sing to you. They will sing to your name. Come and see God's deeds. Awesome work on behalf of the children of men. He turned the sea into dry land. They went to the river on foot. There we rejoiced in him. His rules by his might forever. His eyes watch the nations. Don't let the rebellious rise up against him. Praise our God, you peoples. Make the sound of his praise heard, who preserves our life among the living and doesn't allow our feet to be moved. For you, God, have tested us. You have refined us as silver is refined. You brought us into prison. You laid a burden on our backs. You allowed men to ride over our heads. We went through fire and through water, but you brought us to the place of abundance. I will come into your temple with burnt offerings. I will pay my vows to you, which my lips promised, and the mouth spoke when I was in distress. I will offer to you burnt offerings of fat animals, or the offerings of rams. I will offer bulls with goats. Come and hear, all you who fear God. I will declare what he has done for my soul. I cried to him with my mouth. He was extolled with my tongue. If I cherished sin in my heart, the Lord wouldn't have listened. But most certainly God has listened. He has heard the voice of my prayer. Blessed be God, who has not turned away my prayer, nor his loving kindness from me. So Psalm 66, a song, a psalm. Isn't that the same thing? Isn't a psalm a song? Maybe I'm not sure. Make a joyful shout to God, all the earth. It's a beautiful thing. Sing to the glory of his name. Offer glory and praise. See, this is worship. Make a joyful shout to God. Sing to the glory of his name. Offer glory and praise. I see so much of worship that we need this big worship team. And it's no longer a joyful shout to God. It's a performance. It's like a concert. And that's all it is. And I find myself looking at the performance, not making a joyful shout to God. Because in verse 3, tell God how awesome are your deeds. Through the greatness of your power, your enemies submit themselves to you. See, we don't have enough free flow worship. You tell God how awesome are your deeds. You know, thank God that He healed my children. Thank God that He got me a job. Thank God that He helped me through an addiction. Thank God that I'm going through difficult times. Because then I know, don't rely on my paycheck. Don't rely on certain people. You know, you need to go through this to get to something better. Verse 4, all the earth will worship you and will sing to you. They will sing to your name. Hmm. It's my own personal belief, though, that, when it says in the last psalm about faraway places, people way across the sea who've never heard of God, I truly believe when they're worshiping, even if it's not really the correct God, they don't know any better. Mostly in the Bible, it talks about people who knew better and decided to reject God. They know who the correct God is. But there's so many people who just worship. They don't know what to worship. So they worship the sun, or they worship, the crops or their money or something. And that's all that they know. Because it does say all the earth will worship you. It also could mean in the end, when God's done judging the world, in the end, everybody will bow down and say who Jesus is. Verse 5, come and see God's deeds. Awesome work on behalf of the children of men. He does a lot of good things for us. You know, verse 6 is kind of the history. He turned the sea into dry land. They went through the river on foot. This is the crossing of the Red Sea, where 1 million people literally crossed over, and then the waters collapsed on the Egyptians behind him. What a great and awesome miracle, you know? And I've heard people try to diminish this, saying the water was low and all kinds of nonsense. You know, it was a miracle. He rules by his might forever. His eyes watch the nations. Don't let the rebellious rise up against him. Watch for that. A lot of praise here. Verse 10, again, it's the past. For God, you have tested us. You have refined us as silver is refined. You brought us into prison. You laid a burden on our back. You allowed men to ride over our heads. But then the end of verse 12, but you brought us to the place of abundance. They kind of deserved what they got. They turned their backs on God. He kept warning them, but you finally brought us to the place of abundance. So, I will offer you burnt offerings, you know, the fat of animals, offering of rams and goats. Come and hear, all you who fear God. I will declare what he has done for my soul. So, history. And now, what has he done for you personally? And again, that's part of what worship is. It's too much these rote songs that we just hear over and over again. When I used to run the church, I was almost bored with some of these songs, especially some of these songs that have like 3 lines and it said, sing this 15 times. It's just ridiculous. This is what worship is. You know, I will declare what he has done for my soul, for me. Hmm. Verse 18, if I cherished sin in my heart, the Lord wouldn't have listened. Basically, get rid of sin. Before you come into worship, to shout gladly before God, make sure there's no sin. But most certainly, God has listened. He has heard the voice of my prayer. What a beautiful verse. I didn't cherish sin in my heart. Didn't say he was sinless, but to the best of his ability, they're confessing their sins. They're bringing it out into the open, you know, and then God will hear. Blessed be God who's not turned away my prayer, nor his loving kindness from me. So we sin, bring it out into the open, confess it openly. In their day, they brought burnt offerings, offering of rams and goats. In our day, it's more confession. You know, so he has not turned away my prayer, nor his loving kindness from me. Psalm 66.